Alright, so this is part B of part 2 of this video, if that makes any sense. And I told you that might happen, so I apologize. This is the second part of part 2 of the video for Madison Square Garden's inserts. And we were talking about Roland Estraza. And Roland Estraza, in my opinion, could have went undefeated. He was that good of a fighter. He was very technical. Had a lot of heart and a lot of courage. And I believe he defeated Rocky Marciano first fight. That's me, Scrapbook Boxing, saying that. And I believe that he could have possibly won a second fight had he not been stopped. But it was because Rocky Marciano, see, these guys had words, and Rocky Marciano didn't appreciate it on his end of it. And he was fouling Roland Estraza, hitting him low, hitting him after the bell. He was warned 5 times for doing that, but points were not taken away from him. And Roland Estraza was treated unfairly as far as I'm concerned. But he was knocked out. And because of that, I think slowly his career, he was losing the fighters that he didn't have to lose to. He was in the ring with Ted Lowry, another great fighters, very good fighters. But, here you're talking about a man who's in a ring with guys like Charlie Norcus. Charlie Norcus was a very good club fighter. Julio Mendoza, Don Carkel. He was in a ring with Rocky Marciano, but he was in a ring with Roland Estraza, so he lost to Don Carkel. Cesar Bion, Keen Simmons, Tiger Lowry. He defeated him twice. Roland Estraza was a very good fighter. Unfortunately, he met Rocky Marciano, and Rocky Marciano got foul and dirty on him in the second fight, and that's basically the story with that fight with Roland Estraza. Let's move on to Billy Fox. They call him Blackjack Billy Fox. And he fought from 1943 to 1950. He was born January 29th, 1926 in Oklahoma. Then he resided in Philadelphia. He had total fights of 59 bouts, 49 wins, 48 knockouts, 9 losses. He was stopped 9 times. He fought Jake LaMotta, Artie Levine. He defeated Artie Levine in Madison Square Garden. Billy Grant defeated him. Tiger Lowry defeated him. He had a draw with him. Joe Blackwood. Now, Joe Blackwood was a phenomenal fighter. He's very, very underrated. Very good fighter. And he lost to Joe Blackwood, but Joe Blackwood was a very good fighter. Outstanding fighter was Joe Blackwood. I got to do a profile on him. He lost on a technical knockout. He was in the ring with Ozzie Bulldog Harris. Now, all these guys were from Pittsburgh. And he defeated him twice. Johnny Walker defeated him. Fought him November 14th, 1947 in Madison Square Garden. And it was a 4-round technical knockout. And Blackjack Billy Fox was known for fighters taking dives. That's his claim to fame. Matter of fact, Jake LaMotta got his license removed, and he was testifying against that fight when Ray Robinson was being honored in 1965 in Madison Square Garden. You had Carl Bobo Olsen and Gene Foreman, Carmen Basilio, Randy Turpin. They were in the ring honoring him. And the only other fighter that wasn't in the ring that fought for the middleweight championship with Ray Robinson was Jake LaMotta. And that's because he was testifying for that fight that was a dive with Blackjack Billy Fox. Fox was also in the ring with Gus Lesnovich. And he had 2 losses in Madison Square Garden with him. So Billy Fox, good fighter, very controversial. But that's the story between Roland Estraza and Billy Fox. 2 very good fighters. I like Roland Estraza, very, very good fighter. And Billy Fox, good fighter as well. Now we're looking at Pat Marcoon and Ralph Tiger Jones. Pat Marcoon, another good fighter. He fought from 1949 to 1956. He was born April 4th, 1941. He was a lightweight out of Brooklyn. And he resided to Coney Island, New York. And the thing with him He had like 60 fights, and he won 38 of those 60 fights. And he had 20 knockouts. He lost 19 fights. He was stopped 6 times, and he had 3 draws. And he was in a ring with Willie Pep and Laura Salis and Howard Gomez and Jesus Campos, Miguel Barrios. I'm trying to think of these guys. Miguel Barrios was a very, very good fighter. I remember when he was in a ring with Flash Alorte, and that was a very, very good fighter. Flash Alorte. I did a profile on him. But that was a good fight between Miguel Barrios and Flash Alorte. Barrios was cut over the eyes. He was badly bleeding. But he stuck it out. Very, very good fighter was Miguel Barrios. And so Pat Marcoon was a decent fighter. He was a good club fighter. Ralph Tiger Jones. Now, he had a fighting career record. He fought from 1950 to 1962. And he was born March 3rd, 1914. And he died July 17th, 1994. He was a middleweight, stood 5 foot 8 inches. He was from Brooklyn, New York. Then he would later reside to Yonkers, New York. I met him. He had 89 total fights, 52 wins, 13 knockouts. And he was in a ring with fighters such as Wolfie Grieve. Wolfie Grieve was from Canada. He was a middleweight. And he was a decent fighter. He was in a ring with Gene Foreman, lost to Gene Foreman. Joey Giardello lost to him. He was a middleweight champion, as Gene Foreman was. Charlie Holmes from France. He lost to him. He was a good middleweight. Jesse Turner defeated him. He fought him at the Portland Auditorium. He was in a ring with Del Flanagan. Del Flanagan had a brother. And the Flanagan brothers were very, very good fighters. He lost to Del Flanagan. He also defeated Kid Gavilan. And that's a good victory for Ralph Tiger Jones. He defeated Sugar Ray Robinson. Robinson was making a comeback. He retired in 1952. He made a comeback and he fought a few fights. Then he was in a ring with with Ralph Tiger Jones, excuse me. He also was in a ring with Rocky Castellani, Johnny Saxton. Johnny Saxton was a welterweight champion. And he lost to him twice. Danny Wapner. They call him Danny Bang Bang Wapner. He defeated him. Bobby Dykes from Texas. And he defeated him. He also was in the ring with Peter Mueller. Lost to him. Ernie Durando, very tough fighter. Defeated him in Madison Square Garden. Eduardo Lassie, Madison Square Garden. Carl Bobo Olsen, Chicago. He lost to him. And he Hector Constance and lost to him. So I'm about to lose battery life. So we're going to continue with some more fighters in a bit. Carmen Basilio and George Arago. 2 good fighters. Carmen Basilio fought from 1948 to 1961. He was from Canastota, New York, upstate. He was called the Onion Farmer. And he was born March 2nd, 1927 in Canastota, New York. He died November 7th, 2012. He was 85 years of age at the time of his death. I met Carmen Basilio probably 50 times. I'm probably exaggerating, but I met him a lot. And he was in a lot of dinners that I was involved in, a lot of banquets. Met him at the Hall of Fame several times. Carmen Basilio, something else. He was a welterweight, stood 5 foot 6 inches. He had total bouts of 79 fights, 56 wins, 27 knockouts, 16 losses, and he was stopped twice, both by Gene Foreman. He was in a ring with Gil Turner, having one of the greatest Philadelphia fighters. I love Gil Turner as a fighter. September 7th, 1955. He fought Johnny Saxton, lost once and defeated him twice, and he would get the welterweight championship belt. He fought Peter Mueller at the War Memorial Auditorium in Syracuse, New York. He was in a ring with Tony DeMarco. 2 12-round knockouts, like 2 seconds apart. And it was incredible. You know, he was stopped. He stopped Tony DeMarco June 10th, 1955 at the War Memorial Auditorium. November 30th, 1955, and in Boston Garden. Knocked him on the 12th round. The referee was Harry Keller. Harry Keller was a very good referee during those years. And the other referee was Mel Manning. I remember that like yesterday. Basilio was incredibly leading. And, what was amazing about it, at the War Memorial in Syracuse, he was leading. And Tony DeMarco was leading in Boston. I wonder how that could happen. But it did. And he was stopped twice by Gene Foreman. He defeated Ray Robinson for the middleweight championship belt. And then he would lose the belt back to Ray Robinson. I got to tell you, that was some fight. When he fought Robinson at Yankee Stadium, and that was a war, fight of the year. He fought Don Jordan, defeated him. Al Andrews defeated him. Pierre Langlois defeated him, and he had a draw with him. Kid Gavilan lost to him. Vic Cardell defeated him. Mike Williams defeated him. Lou Jenkins defeated him. Mike Williams was a lightweight champion. Lou Jenkins was a lightweight champion. He fought Chuck Davey twice. Lost to him once and had a draw. Billy Graham defeated him once and had a draw. So Carmen Basilio was a very, very good fighter. And George Arago, had to adjust my camera here. George Arago, very good fighter. He fought from July 7th, I believe it was, 1948 to November 11th, 1958. And he was born May 26, 1931. He was a lightweight, stood 5 foot 5.5 inches. He was born in Fox Point, Rhode Island. Then he would reside in Providence, Rhode Island. He stood 5 foot 5.5 inches. And he had a fighting record, I believe it was 58 fights, 33 knockouts. 9 losses, and I think he was stopped 5 times, if I'm correct. And he fought fighters such as Orlando Zulueta, a very good Cuban fighter. Defeated him twice. Fought him in Rhode Island. Sandy Saller, Boston Garden. Defeated him on a unanimous decision. Sandy Saller was a fantastic featherweight champion. He fought Freddie Red Top Davis, October 30th, 1953 in Madison Square Garden. New England's lightweight, Arthur King. He was a very good fighter. Charlie Riley defeated him. Johnny Gonzalez, another good fighter, fought him at the Boston Garden. Drew with him once and lost to him once. Jimmy Carter, fantastic lightweight champion, defeated Ike Williams, 1951, stopped him in the 8th round. And he was a 3-time lightweight champion, was Jimmy Carter. Fought him in Madison Square Garden and he lost to Jimmy Carter. He fought Patty DeMarco in Madison Square Garden. Defeated him on a unanimous decision. Joe Brown, St. Nicholas Arena in New York, and defeated him, and he knocked him out in 7 rounds. So he was a good fighter. So salute to these 2 good fighters for the Madison Square Garden several times. Now you're looking at Rocky Castellani and Carl Bobo Olsen. Rocky Castellani fought January 10th, 1944 to October 18th, 1957. And he was born May 28th, 1927 in Pennsylvania. He stood 5 foot 10 inches. He was a middleweight. He died August 31st, 2008. He was 81 years of age at the time of his death. He had total fights of 89 fights, 69 wins, 18 knockouts. He lost 14 fights, and he was stopped 4 times, if I'm correct. I believe I am. He had 6 draws. He was in the ring with fighters such as Charlie Fusari. Charlie Fusari was from Sicily, Italy, and he moved to Irvington, New Jersey. And Tony Pallone was another good fighter that Rocky Castellani was in the ring with. He was in the ring with Patty Young, I believe. So Rocky Castellani was a very good fighter. I want to get too deep into his career. I want to move on. Charlie Fusari was another good fighter. But Carl Bobo Olsen was some fighter as well. Now, he was from Hawaii, Honolulu. He fought from 1944 to November 28th, 1966. He was 73 years of age at the time of his death. I met him a couple of times. And his name was Carl Elmer Olsen. He was born July 11th, 1928. He died January 16th, 2002. And he stood 5 foot 10 inches and he had a 70-inch reach. And he had like 115 fights, a lot of fights, 97 wins and 46 knockouts. He had like 16 losses. He stopped 7 times. He fought Doug Jones from Yonkers, New York, Wayne Thornton, Don Fulmer, Jesse Baldry. Fought him at the Civic Auditorium in Honolulu.